when Scott initially, he asked Frank and Frank couldn't do it and they asked me to do it, and it didn't matter to me that it was after the grand final, whether we won or lost. It was about, like, I like to do these things to try and get better, and so it's a good challenge for me, and so hopefully you'll get something out of it. And there's a bit of a brief around high performance teams and cultures and what it takes to make them, what makes a high performance culture. So I'll start off with, this is a recruitment bloke from the Roosters, and when we used to have meetings, if you can't see it, when we used to have meetings, we'd have the recruitment team, the coaching team, the high performance team, and he used to say, let's just call it performance and we can decide later whether it's high or not. So let's not get too hung up on our titles of what we think we're good at. So I always remember that. I'm sort of crackling up a bit. Is that okay or what? Yeah, okay, cool. Because don't get too far ahead of yourself. The other thing, I'm going to talk a whole lot of stuff. Remember this, these are my opinions. There's a saying, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, most of them stink. So remember that, these are my opinions, my thoughts, my ideas. I said to Belinda to make sure I tell you, I'm not a sports psych because I'm going to go into some stuff around, I don't know what you want to call it, psychology, team environments, all that sort of stuff. I'm not a sports psych, I'm a coach, and I've come to a journey to get there. First thing I want to do is I want to show you a video. So watch this video.
One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds and migratory birds started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilize the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transform not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
Rightio. So a friend of mine, I went to a talk, he showed that video, and that really struck home to me. So for me, that was a really powerful message, is that any amount of change, what is perceived as a small amount of change can make a massive impact on your environment because of the cascading effects. Let's talk about that later. Remember that though. Okay, a little bit about me. So I've been around for a long time. People call me a dinosaur or whatever. I've been lucky enough to have some experiences. I've found some light bulb moments. I've taken some notes. I'll give you a rocket ship journey of my career. When I first started out, I worked with a lot of Olympic sports. I thought that, because I started as a strength and conditioning coach, I thought that as long as we were physically good, fit, fast, strong, everything's sweet. It'll all take care of itself, right? And I got some teams and athletes that I worked with really fit, fast, strong, and they all improved in performance. So I thought, yep, I'm on the right path. Then I came across a water polo coach who had a different way of wanting to play water polo. Water polo is a really stagnant, or can be a really stagnant, strength-heavy game. He wanted to play a beautiful game, a dynamic game, a powerful game. He needed me to incorporate my ideas of strength and conditioning into his philosophy of training. And I had to learn how to marry a technical and tactical in with a physical. Okay, so now I'm starting to learn a little bit more. Coached a javelin thrower. I knew nothing about javelin, but I coached a javelin thrower. She was a really good javelin thrower. She's a way better javelin thrower than I was a coach. She ended up number 2 in the world at one stage, not because of me, but because of her and the environment that we set up. She blew out her elbow. She had the second best throw in 1999, blew out her elbow, needed surgery, missed basically nearly 12 months, came back to throw in the Olympics in 2000. Probably one of the strongest, most determined, what I thought mentally resilient athletes I've ever come across. One day she says to me, what happens if, okay, I'm going to say fucking shit a bit, so hopefully you're okay with that. She goes, what happens if I fuck up and I don't throw the qualifying distance? And I said, are you serious? Like, as if you're going to do that. You're the strongest person I've ever come across mentally. She went out there and she fucked up and she didn't throw the qualifying distance. And she had a mental chink that I missed, okay? And that's one of my biggest regrets in coaching still. But it's like now I understand that there's a mental, emotional aspect which I didn't see because all I'm worried about is this physical side. So then I went to a few other things happened along the way, but I went to the Roosters and we spoke about not just wanting them to be better players, but to live better lives. Okay, so now it's all about the person, not just the athlete, and how do we give them a better life, not just create a better athlete, and that's it, and that's my job done. Then I went to the Sevens, and the Sevens players are not the top level rugby players. They're the next level down, and they're suited to Sevens, and it's this little team of 12, and you go travelling around the world, and it sounds great, and it is great, and they played for the love of the game, and there was joy and happiness, and it was a little tight unit of team, and it was a wonderful experience, and it was one of my most favourite teams I've been a part of, because there's an element of togetherness. I went to the Warriors, and Steve Kerr, the coach, had been around a long time, and he had, these are the trademarks of the Warriors: competitiveness, compassion, mindfulness, joy. Joy. And I'm like, this is a professional environment, and we're talking about joy? What is that about? No one embodied joy. So I don't know if you follow basketball. That's a guy called Steph Curry. He's probably one of the greatest players in the game. And no one embodied joy more than he did. And he brought joy to your environment. And we get hung up that we're a professional organisation. Everything we have to do is professional. But at the end of the day and at the heart of it all, We're kids playing sport because we love it and we need joy in our environment. And he brought joy like I've never seen done before. So then I ended up at the Melbourne Storm, and we're a really professional, performance mindset orientated place, and I took some of those, and obviously there's a lot of things there as well before I got there, but about how do we live better and train better and play better, because you can't play better if you don't train better, and you can't train better if you don't live better. But this is a performance mindset that we have, right? These are the things that we want to incorporate into our environment. And so 35 years later, like I feel like I'm finally starting to sort shit out, and I'm not at the end, and as Churchill says, it's not the end, nor is it the beginning of the end, but it's perhaps the end of the beginning, like I'm finally getting somewhere to now know what I have to do. And so for me, it comes down to this. It's all about the environment that you create. Okay, so that's what it is. And we're going to do an exercise later, but I'm going to ask you now in 2s, 3s, or 4s on your table, not in the table of like whatever you got there, 8. Don't talk in 8, talk in 2 or 3 or 4. What is one quality that great teams have? Now, I come from team environments, you come from individual. You have your Davis Cup and Billie Jean and all that sort of stuff, but within your individual environment, you have a team. You have a coach, a player, a strength and conditioning coach, a nutrition. Like you have a little team within your teams. Just talk now, and we won't get answers yet, but just talk now for 2 minutes. What is one quality that great teams have? We'll come back to it later. I want someone to share what your group spoke about. What a great team. What does a great team have? What's a quality a great team has? Anyone can share.
Common vision and purpose.
Okay. Yep. Nice. Really good. Anyone else? Yes.
Trust, transparency, and similar aligned connection, purpose, and shared vision.
Yep. Really good. Really good. Care. Anyone else? Oh, sorry. Hang on. Yep. Care. Yep. Cool.
Good humans.
Good humans. Excellent. Really good. These are all great. We're going to do an exercise later where we're going to do this sort of stuff. There is no right or wrong. Okay. Come back to the opinions, assholes. Okay. Everyone has their own outlooks on life. Everyone has their own paradigms that they work within. There is no right or wrong. It's how you frame it and what you do with it. Okay. But these are great. These are great. Okay. We'll just leave it there. Again, we're on time. So I'm going to talk to you about environments, because this is where I've come to. I'm going to talk to you about environments of excellence, of mastery, and of our daily living environment. And the environment of excellence and the mastery environment are really, really important. And without that, it sometimes doesn't matter what you have in your daily living environment. But if you don't get your daily living environment right, the other two don't matter. Okay. So we're a little bit video heavy at the start, but that's all right. We're going to go to another video. So this is a video from the Storm. This is a video that's played to every person that comes in when they first start, be it staff, be it player, and it's not just played once and that's it. It's often played a number of times. It might be played 2 or 3 times during the year, etc. I want you to watch it. Again, it goes for a little bit, but it's an important part of our culture and our heritage.
Over 20 years ago, the Storm Commander, high from the watchtower on foreign lands beside the Yarra River, built a new village where no man thought was possible. The Storm Village. This village needs to be built. Protectors of the village came from many different nations, many different backgrounds, but they united as one team. The common purpose and a common bond, and the responsibility to safeguard this new home of the Storm family. We know as brothers of the Storm, if you are ready to go to the When you step into this watchtower, you know Storm brothers of the past, take pride in the work you have done and the Watchtower creating this legacy. Mates for life, brothers forever. Storm brothers of tomorrow, before you drink from the well, remember who dug it. Earn the right to climb that tower, and you will be forever grateful that you put in the hard work to do so. Storm brothers of today, your commander has called. It's time. Time to put on the purple jersey. Time to climb into the Watchtower. Time to get your job done. It's time for battle.
Rightio. I like that video. We get a sense of belonging, right? There's a movie, I think it's called Green Edge or something. It's about the cycling team. Bloke made this fella, Fine Tuft, made this quote. Come from a tribal people, everyone is searching for a group to be part of and do something special. It's about belonging, okay? If you go back to evolutionary studies, if you didn't belong to a group, you died because you couldn't hunt a mammoth on your own. You needed to be part of a group, you needed to belong to something, you needed to be part of a community. We're isolated and disconnected more so. And I don't want to, and I'm not a sociologist. Since COVID, we are more isolated, more disconnected. As a people, we're becoming that way. There's an underlying need for human connection. That is about belonging. That is what an environment is, about belonging to something, okay? And about having a purpose, okay? A purpose. To get the best from people, you need to connect them to something bigger than themselves. So I went to this talk in 2013, so 11 years later, and it's still one of the most impactful talks I've been to. And this guy, Lieutenant General John Whistler from the Marines, spoke about what the Marines try to instill in their people. And it's a warrior ethos, and it's about family. It's about your family, like your parents, your immediate family, and your Marine family. And the central piece of a warrior ethos is fighting for something greater than yourself, to teach them a lifestyle and hold them accountable. And it's taught from the oldest down to the youngest, so it's about storytelling. But it's about a belonging and a purpose of something greater than yourself. So that means that when I go to battle, I will take a bullet for the bloke next to me because I love him, but I don't maybe like him, because it's about something greater than me. Okay. So they're the two things that I got, and we all get different things. And mine's not right and yours is not wrong, but we all get different things. But that's the message that we try to create, is there's a belonging of being part of the storm, and there's a purpose to what you do. And it's a purpose greater than yourself. I'll give you a little example. In 2020, we got removed from Melbourne. Melbourne was a messed up city. We got taken to Twin Waters, which is not a bad place to be, but we were taken away from our homes and our families. Well, no, our families came with us, but we were put there, and Billy Slater, who's a great of the club, wrote to Frank, and he said, hey, Frank, try not to get the boys to post socials of themselves at the beach, because everyone down here in Victoria is locked up and can't leave their house. And while we want them to enjoy themselves, it's not a good look. And so that sort of snowballed a thing about, okay, while we're up here and we're doing something for ourselves, as in trying to win a premiership, we're also doing something for the people of Victoria, because in Victoria, if anyone was down there, you're locked in your house, you could leave your house once a day within a 5-mile radius, and all these sort of messed up restrictions that basically isolated people. And one of the only joys they got every week was watching sport. And the first football code that came back was rugby league, and then AFL came back later. But we were something that Melbourne people hopefully could be proud of. And so therefore, we spoke about, you can see there's a V and it's got Our Home Victoria. And we spoke about how do we connect back to the people of Melbourne. And so that was one way. And when guys scored a try, they would do like a love heart over a V. And There was a number of reasons why we won the premiership that year, but that was a little bit a part of it because we had a purpose greater than just us. It was for families that were left behind, staff that were left behind, people that were left behind. So when you can create a connection and a purpose for something greater than yourself, you're going to have a really strong culture, I believe. So, talk about an environment of excellence. I think we do this really well. We promote our values really well. This is sort of in-house, but it's not in-house. Our theme is consistent, proud, relentless. The Melbourne Storm player is consistent in everything he does. We're proud of the club's heritage and the jersey we wear out to battle with our mates. We are relentless. We are the Melbourne Storm. That is our trademark, consistent, proud, relentless. It's on the walls everywhere. It's what we try and live and value. I have a video, but I don't think I'm going to show it because I'm short on time. But our players, our leaders, throughout the year had different themes, and we came back to this theme twice in the year about consistent, proud, relentless, and we themed games around being consistent, being proud, being relentless, and we used our great players around that, okay? It's a really, really important part of who we are and what we stand for, and we make sure that it's there every day, okay? So that's the video, but I'm not going to show it because it goes for 4 minutes. Another thing that we really believe in is you have to earn the right. You have to respect the journey. You have to earn the right. We show players, great players, that spent so long developing themselves and their game. It's not an easy passage. Okay, no one has a right to earn the jump, to get the jumper. You have to earn the jumper. They talk about in 2010, obviously there was a salary cap. They lost all their points, and every time they played a game, whether they won or lost, they got no points. So essentially you're playing for nothing. Now people would say, well, let's just play all the young kids and see what they're like. And the coach, Craig Bellamy, said, no, you have to earn the jumper. I don't care whether we're getting points or not. They had their own little internal table. I think they ended up coming 4th in the year, right? But you had to earn the jumper. It's not given to you. You have to earn the right. So that's a really important part of the passage of a Melbourne Storm player, is earning your right. And the fundamental values that we espouse are hard work and effort and doing your job. Nothing about being able to tackle well, pass well, hit a good forehand, have the best serve. Hard work, effort, do your job are the fundamental values that we espouse, right? And that's what you have to do to be a Melbourne Storm player. Now, if you do all those things, you're going to be a very good defensive player and have a good pass and all that sort of stuff. But they're the values that we want in our players, right?
Just quickly, how do you define the difference between hard work and effort?
They're sort of linked. Hard work is probably a little bit more from a training perspective. Am I going to work hard at getting myself better versus effort is within a game? Am I going to take shortcuts or not? Does that make sense? Okay, so that you can't have that if you don't have that. Okay, and if you don't do that, then you're not going to do that, and they all sort of link in. But it's a good question. Yeah. So the thing is that some people have heard this. There's a story of the meal of bacon and eggs, right? There's 2 animals involved, the pig and the chicken. And one of them's committed and one of them is involved. The pig is committed because he gives up his life for the meal, and the chicken's involved, he lays an egg and he pisses off. Okay, you can be a pig or you can be a chicken. You can commit yourself to the process or you can just be involved. Okay, Lee Matthews used to talk about we had consultants. We had players that were consultants at the club. You know, they'd turn up, do their job and go, but they weren't really committed. So what are you going to be in your environment? Are you going to be committed or involved? Are you going to be a pig or a chicken? Okay, that's a really important part. I want to be a pig. Okay, because that's what's important. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit around some of the things that I think are important for an environment of excellence. Okay. Mentioned Aristotle before. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. Okay, it's a habit. Success is a product of daily habits, not once in a life transformation. Don't think that I'm going to change this and all of a sudden everything happens. It's day after day after day after day. And that's what hard work is about. Okay, every day I turn up and commit myself to a process. Commit, not involve myself, commit myself to a process of becoming better. And we develop habits around our environment and our mindset, because we can set up the environment, but if you don't have the mindset to want to be better, then you won't get better, okay? And if you have the mindset but you don't have the environment, you're not going to get better either. So that's what you have to create. You have to create mindsets and environments to establish habits. We train hard, okay? You cannot get away from the fact that you have to train hard. If you want to be excellent, you have to train hard. 30 years ago now, I went and visited this fellow who's an Olympic weightlifter, and he said the human body can adapt to nearly any stimulus we apply, so why do we put limitations on performance? Our head coach sometimes takes that to the extreme and he wants to do absolutely stupid shit that I got to pull him back a little bit, but my challenge is always, as a coach, am I stopping our players getting better because I'm putting limitations on what I think they can achieve? Right? Because we have this protection mindset as a coach. Oh, I don't want to hurt them. Well, how do you know you're going to hurt them unless you actually take them past that point? How do you know what their limitations are if you always put limitations on them? Okay? How do you know what excellence is unless you take them to a place that none of you have ever been before? Like I said, sometimes he goes way over the top, but that's okay. It's a good challenge. It's how do you work around it? But don't put limitations on people because you have a paradigm that you think is the right thing. We do the basics really well, okay? Really fundamental, simple basics over and over and over again. Dennis Pagan, for those that know AFL, spoke about the key to success is do the basics well over and over and over again. You cannot get away from the fact that you must do the basics really well. And we all want to get the latest, moves, trick shots, whatever it is, okay, but if you can't nail your backhand down the line 10 times out of 10, then you need to get back to doing the basics really well. I mentioned that we train hard. What we had at one stage was players were turning up, I'm not going to say devoid of purpose, but they didn't think about the purpose of what they were doing. Because they would we'll turn up, and I know we're going to train hard, so that will take care of it, right? So we needed them to create a purpose of what they wanted to do to get better. How do I get better every day? What do I need to work on? That requires reflection, thinking about things, not just being this person that turns up and, okay, what do I do today, coach? Okay, and we use this video, Deion Sanders, ex-NFL, ex-Major League Baseball, played in a World Series for baseball, played in a Super Bowl for NFL, exceptional athlete, but he's now a coach. He's a college American football coach. He talks about purpose. I think it's a powerful video.
That's what's wrong with most of our athletes today. We don't practice to be great. We don't practice to be dominant. We practice to practice. What do you mean by that, Prime? I'm glad you asked. We practice counting the number of periods. We practice understanding how much time we got left. We practice just to get through practice. We cutting deals in practice. You go soft, I go soft. We don't practice to be dominant. When I ask you, what was your purpose of practice? You ain't got no answer for me. I'm going to ask you, what is your purpose of practice? I don't care if you practice at work. I don't care if you practice with your relationship. I don't care if you practice in any endeavor you choose to do. What is your purpose for practice? I practiced to be the best ever. So every time I walked on that field, I had a purpose for my practice. True.
Who's turned up to a training session as a coach or a player without a purpose? Fuck, I have. Let's be honest, how many times do you go through the motions, right? So is that acceptable? No. So how do you hold yourself accountable? Okay, how do you make sure that you have a purpose every time you step onto the court or into the gym or whatever it is that you're doing? You have to have a purpose, and that's what I felt our players were lacking at one stage. Because we train hard, well, shit, I'll just turn up and I'll get better. No, you won't. Not unless you have a purpose to get better. So that was a really important piece of our puzzle is how we have a purpose every time we get better. And we have to educate them around those things. Standards. So you're going to have a fellow called Dean Vauxhall come in and talk later. So Dean came down and visited our place. I really liked him. He's a good guy. I went and spent a week with him at St. Peter's there because I thought he was an excellent coach and I wanted to learn how to get better off him. And you think swim coach, rugby league, what the hell? But it's not anything to do with the sport. It's about what they bring as a coach. I don't want to steal his thunder, but I will because I don't know if he'll tell the story. He spoke about with Ariane Titmus leading into 21 Tokyo Games, and her turn was not good, and they needed to work on her turn. And Laurie Lawrence rang him and said, "Mate, Dean, Arnie's turns are shit. You need to get it better." And he related a story of how when he was coaching one of his swimmers, and Laurie didn't have the time to work on it, so he sent that swimmer down to do his own turns for an hour every day. And his turns got worse because he didn't have a purpose and he didn't have someone watching over him. And he said, "Mate, if her turns don't get better, it's your fault, not hers." And so they had this thing where every time Arnie did a turn, they rated it. And it was either world class or it was dog shit. Not, oh, pretty good, nearly world class. It was world class or it was dog shit. And that's how he held her accountable and himself accountable to getting her better. Okay? So what are the standards that you want to accept or that you want to espouse to? And how do you hold people accountable to them? Okay? So we have fairly high standards at our place. And how do we hold people accountable? Well, we go through a video session, and if people aren't doing the right thing, they're called out. Not in a bad way, but this is not what we stand for. This is not what we teach. This is not how we act as a Melbourne Storm player. There's a difference between making an error versus a lack of effort or a lack of hard work, okay, or not doing what is your job. So how do you go about developing the standards and holding people accountable? And the most important thing is, how do you go about ensuring that the feedback given is taken as a means to get better, not as a personal attack? Because that's the biggest thing that happens is people have egos, right? We all have egos. I have egos. Everyone has egos. Belinda says to me, "Hey, Lachlan, you talk with shit." I go, "Fuck you, Belinda. I thought it was good." And then we have this thing, right? Okay, sorry. But you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, whoa, step back. Why did she say my talk was shit? Okay, I didn't do this, this, and this. Okay, really good points. Am I big enough to learn? This is our wrestling coach. He messes the boys up big time. They hate him. He goes, "Hey, boys, it's not personal. It's just business." Right? How do we take feedback so it's not personal, it's just business? Because we're all about getting everyone better, right? But if I want to take things personally, I'm not going to get better. But if I take it as a business, so to speak, this person's trying to help me get better, that's how I will become better and grow. But it's all about how you do that. So that's a really important part. What standards you have and how you hold them accountable and how you take that. And then the other thing is humility. So when I went to the Warriors, the coach, the GM, everyone said, when the best player on your team is your hardest working and most humble, you know you're in a good place. When your best player on your team is the most humble and hard working, how can anyone else get a big head? So are the people that are your best players in this environment, and I know you might only have one person at a time or whatever, are they your hardest working and most humble people? Are they the people that you promote as role models? Or do you need to look at in the past? So like the Watchtower video, we promoted players that espouse the values of our club. Okay? The three greatest players in our football club, Cameron Smith, Billy Slater and Cooper Cronk, were the hardest working and most humble players in our football club's history. Is it a coincidence that they were also the greatest players, or is it a correlation? I don't know, you've got to work that out. Is it a coincidence that he's the greatest player, or one of the greatest players, or a correlation? Okay, what are the values that you want from people, not just from a physical performance, or not even physical performance, from a performance aspect, and what do you want from a human aspect? If you've got shit people, you're going to have a shit environment. The other thing is, Billy uses this, you'll be the most influential person in your career. You've got to take control of it, okay? There's only so much you as a coach can do to help them. They have to take control of their career, okay? When do people accept responsibility? So there's a little bit around about our environment of excellence, okay? The other thing I want to talk to you a little bit around is what I'll call a mastery environment before we get to the darling stuff. So I mentioned the guy, Andy Walsh. Some of you may know of him. He used to be at Red Bull. He's now got his own thing. He's a fantastic guy. I knew him way back when I was at uni, and then I bumped into him 20 years later, and he was the head of Red Bull. I'm like, how the hell did you get here? But he thinks different. He thinks different. And he's impacted me massively. But he talks about creating a mastery environment. And as I got to know Andy, and we had a lot of chats, we sort of spoke about there's only so many laps you can run. There's only so much physical you can do. There's only so many times you can go down there and hit a tennis ball, right? There's only so many hours in the day. Now, we all want to train hard, but then what else, okay? And Andy worked on, I don't know if you people know the Stratos project, dropped a guy out of space. At the time was the highest free falls parachute jump, 28,000 feet, whatever it was. Felix Baumgartner, have a look at it if you haven't watched it. It's a really interesting doco. But Felix was physically, technically, everything ready to jump. And it took another year before he got there because he had a psycho-emotional issues around fear and mastery of fear and all those sort of things that they had to get through. So you can create the best performance preparation environment, but if you don't incorporate other aspects of a mastery environment, and I'm going to sound a little kooky, but the spirit, how do you tap into the spirit of people and their emotions to create what you want? I'm going to talk a little bit later about this, but I went to visit a footy club in England called Sale, and they put me up with the CEO, and I'm thinking, why the hell am I meeting the CEO? What's he going to do, talk ticketing? Crowds? What? But he was a really interesting guy. See, my mindset was wrong going in. He spoke to me about what sort of culture do you have? Is it a culture of fear or is it a mastery culture? He said, we can have a kicker go down and he wants to practice his kicking. And he practices out of fear because he doesn't want to miss the kick in the game that loses the game for them. So he's going down and he's practicing, but he's practicing through a culture of fear because I don't want to mess up. Or I can have a kicker who goes down there and he wants to become the best kicker there is and master his craft. Okay, what sort of culture have you got? What culture are your players operating in? Is it a culture of fear or is it a culture of mastery? Of how do I become the absolute best that I can? And mastering yourself. And it takes a long time to do that. But it's a really important part. But you can't have a mastery culture unless you got or a mastery environment unless you got the environment of excellence underneath it, right? It's no good trying to be this when you don't even have hard work and effort and all those sort of things. So you've got to get the framework and build from there. Rightio. How long have we been going? About 40 minutes? 35? Okay. I got an hour left, don't I? Okay, so I always crack the shits when our coaches have meetings that go for like 45, 50 minutes because our players are losing it. I've been going 35, so I need to enact my values. I want you all to get up, walk around, 1 minute, and then we'll come back and sit down and I'll talk again, okay? This is the stuff that I think is the most important. Right? This is the stuff that gets me up in the morning now. Like all the other stuff gets me up in the morning, but this stuff really gets me up in the morning. So this is, to me, the most important thing but you have to establish those things first. But once you get there, this is the difference. But you can also, anyway. I'm going to take you behind the curtain, so to speak. This stuff's more powerful than the photos on the wall and the videos that you watch. Okay, what we're going to talk about now. At the end of 2023, we did a review our sports psych said, we were talking about how players don't, raise things and whatever else, and our sports psych said, I don't think we have a psychologically safe environment. You heard the stuff this morning, right? Psychologically safe environment. No offence, I hate that term because it's really corporate-y. And I'm not trying to dish it, but it's like, so what does that mean to me? It means, what sort of environment do I live in? Do I feel, yes, safe is one thing. Do I feel like I can be myself? But it was a really powerful statement, and I thought about it, and she was right. We do have players that don't speak up. We do have players that are scared of ridicule and being put on show and those sort of things. So it's not a psychologically safe environment, okay? And I reflected, and I looked at the team that's the best team at the moment, and has been, is Penrith. And they talk about how they have this great connection and great bond amongst each other, and they have this purpose where they're doing things for the community of Penrith, and how proud they are, and they have belonging and they have purpose, right? And I reflected back in my time of when I was involved in great teams, and I asked you what was a quality that you thought great teams have? And I think great teams have love. Okay, so I'm standing there in front of a bunch of football players saying great teams love each other. And what do you think? How do you think that goes down? But great teams have love. And some of the things that you spoke about, trust, care, good humans, is love. It's just expressed in a different way, right? And what I knew was we needed to change our environment, our daily environment. So, about 4 weeks ago, the RLPA, Rugby League Players Association, did a survey of all their players, and they released these surveys. And one of the questions was, my club is a psychologically safe environment and makes me feel safe and respected when speaking up. Agree or disagree? 48% agreed. 48% agreed. 52% of all the players out there thought their club was not a psychologically safe environment. Is that an alarm bell? Holy shit, surely it is. The best club had 88%, the worst club had 18%. 82% of the people in that club turned up every day going, I don't want to fucking be here because this is a shit place to be. Right? So we weren't alone in not having a psychologically safe environment, or what I perceive to be that. Right? So there's plenty of people out there. So I don't know whether you have a psychologically safe environment or not. You know that. And you individually will know that about how you feel about it. But be aware that there's a footy club with 82% of people thinking they don't. So, some of the comments from that. The differences can be the difference in keeping your best players at a club and teams being in a position to win a premiership if you've got a psychologically safe. There's a direct correlation between the club environment and winning. Teams I've been a part of where players feel safe and valued are the most successful on the field. Okay, maybe that's going to help performance. Maybe it's not all just about training hard, having good logos on the wall, values. Maybe it's about the environment that you create. So I went away and thought about things, and there's this quote. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So I could have gone, not my problem, I'm not the club psych. Okay? Yeah, we got this, but someone else needs to fix it, or I can be part of the solution. So, I'll skip this bit. I'll skip that bit. I'll come back to it. I mentioned I went to Sale Rugby Union. The head coach there, Alex Anderson, and another guy called Jamie Langley, who worked a lot. I spent a lot of time with him. In COVID, Alex spent a lot of time reading because they were all locked down. He read a lot about psychological safety, about social desirability, about social capital, about who am I, what do I, or why do I exist, who, why, and what team do I want to belong to? And he spoke to me about all this sort of stuff and how he developed a purpose, an individual and a team purpose, and a sense of belonging and brotherhood. That was in 2022, and 2024 it finally dawned on me, holy shit, he's onto something, this guy, okay? And he spoke about oxytocin. Who's heard of oxytocin? Put your hand up if you haven't, like I hadn't heard of it when he spoke to me. What is it? Hormone released by pituitary gland, main function to facilitate childbirth. It's called the love hormone to feel good. How do we get it? Sex and breastfeeding. Rule that one out of the footy club. Positive physical contact, touch, social bonding, talking, laughing, music, exercise. Why? Leads to feelings of increased connection, increased trust, and decreased depression. Do we want increased connection, increased trust, and decreased depression? Do you want that in your environment here? Yes or no? Yes? Rightio. Okay. Positive physical contact. Every day, every player shakes every player's hand. All our staff shake every player's hand. Why? Physical contact. Shows I care. Shows I'm interested. Shows I want to be part of their life. Talking, laughing, having a good time together. Sometimes we get so serious that we don't want to talk and laugh. Yeah, we can have a joke. Music, exercise, well, that's sort of a given in our footy club. Okay, but these are the things that, how do we create this on a regular basis? Okay. So, quote, some people see things that they are and ask why. That's what I used to do. It's like, okay, how it should be, why not? Why not? Why can't we do it? Come back to this, we come from a tribal people, we all want to be part of a group, okay? And I mentioned that we're a lot more disconnected, we're a lot more guarded, we all bullshit about we don't need connection. I did that too, okay? I did that too. I can be all right, I don't need connection. We all need connection. Let's not kid ourselves. The biggest energizer of people is other people, is connection, right? People aren't waving at you half the time, they're drowning. They're searching for connection. How do you create the environment to get that connection? I think it was Scott maybe mentioned about Google. You know, so one of the things I read, Google's looked at companies that centered on human connection and found that they weren't just the most attractive to work at because we all want to work at a good place, but they're also the most profitable and successful. Okay, really important point that you can have success and a good time. 70% of our behaviours are dictated by the environment we're in. 70% of our behaviours are dictated by the environment we're in. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, do I want to be part of a shit environment, or do I want to be part of an environment that allows me to thrive? Okay, and if I want to be part of an environment that allows me to thrive, then every day you bring something to your environment. And it can be a positive force on your environment, or it can be a negative force. And what are you bringing every day to your environment? Okay, I turn up with the shits because I had a fight with my wife, and I bring that into the footy club. And everyone I encounter, I'm a miserable person. Am I being a positive force on our environment, or am I being a negative force on our environment? Every day you have the choice of how you want to come in and what you want to bring, okay? Every single day. And how many times do we give in to the, well, it's not my fault, I've had this, I've had that, I'm going to be in a shit mood. You have to change how you come in every single day. Are you energising your environment or sucking the life out of it? We had this fella come talk to us, Mark Matthews. I don't know if you've seen him or heard him. He was excellent. He spoke about the quality of the relationships around you have the biggest effect on your life. Where am I going with all this? Every person in this room impacts everyone else, okay? What are you going to bring to your environment to make it better? That's where I'm going with it. So the question we ask is, how do we create an environment that allows us, me, to thrive, have joy, excel? So, one of the ways we went about this, we did this thing called the huddle. Okay. So it was a weekly chance to catch up and talk, to share, reflect, discuss, learn, interact. Because all of our stuff is always footy related, but this was outside of footy, right? So what did we do? We sat around in a circle. Why did we sit around in a circle? You go back olden times, people sat around in a circle around a campfire and talked. Why? You have eye contact, you see everyone. Right now, and we spoke about, was it possible to try and set up a huddle here? And we went with, we'll stick with the table. But right now, you're sitting there looking at the back of their head, okay, because that's how the room's set up. And you don't have eye contact. You have eye contact with me, but you don't have eye contact with everyone. But if I'm in a circle, I can have eye contact with everyone, right? That was part of it. It's like, how do we create connections and bonds? Removing barriers. What I wanted to do, I think I'll come to it in a minute, was create an environment where everyone was valued. Everyone's voice is valued, because often you have a hierarchy in football teams and probably within your tennis. most important people, they would have the say, coaches, whatever else, and the little people didn't feel like they could have a say. And if it was, maybe it wasn't valued, but everyone's voice is valued. How do you make everyone's voice valued? Okay, and it was like, so I'm going to sound like I'm pissing in my own pocket here, but it's like, so I drove this concept because I wanted to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. But as it said, it takes a village to raise a child. If everyone's not on board, then it doesn't happen. So the leaders and everyone involved got on board with it and embraced it and went with it. Because there's a video that you can watch about a leader and a lone nut, okay? If a leader doesn't have followers, you're nothing but a lone nut, all right? And look it up, Google leader, lone nut. A leader must have followers. So if part of being a good leader is also being a good follower. If someone has an idea that you think has merit, then back them up, follow them, embrace it, give them courage, give them that chance to do it, to make something of it and see where it goes. So what did we do with the huddle? We started with why. Why did we do it? We wanted to get better at creating a psychologically safe environment where people felt valued, people could speak up, people had a voice. The concept was we'd have reflection and discussion. The easiest thing is what we've done already. Have a chat about this. What do you think? Who wants to share? Okay? But you need to do it in a little group so you can have that chance to talk. Okay? And then you can share. Because some people, and I was one, you'd have trouble sharing because it's like, fuck, I don't want to say anything. What happens if someone makes fun of me? Okay? But you have to have an environment of care, coming back to one of those things about love. So we had reflection and discussion. We had an opportunity to speak up. I would add in some learnings, and then we'd have appreciation. Because we don't appreciate people and we don't say it. We appreciate, I really like what Belinda's done for me, but I don't say it to her, so she never knows, right? I went to visit a guy, this fellow here, Coleman Ruiz, Navy SEAL. He spoke about when they did their debriefs, everyone had to talk because everyone had a different perspective on the battlefield. And he said, we can't go to the next level if people leave a debrief and are holding something back. If you have something to say, have the balls to say it. Okay? And that's hard. But if we have an environment of trust, then you're going to feel more comfortable to say it. And if we go back to it's business, not personal, it's about trying to make your environment better, then we're going to get to a better place, right? One of the things for me was fail fast and learn. I made that shit up as I went. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just making it up. But I told them right at the start, I had this concept and this is where I want to go, but I'm going to make big mistakes and I'm going to fail fast, but I'm going to learn. I want you to help me with it. But we spoke about our tribe, our journey, our story. This is our tribe that we're a part of. And this is our journey and we have a chance to write our story. And what story do we want to write? Do we want to write a story that we feel is positive and embracing and full of love and joy, as well as hard work and effort? So let's not get away from the performance mindset of it, but do we want to write a story that we enjoy being a part of? So some of the things we did. Take 30 seconds to read that. I'm going to show you a video, 1 minute video. Usain Bolt, my opinion, opinions are like assholes, my opinion, greatest athlete ever. See, everyone can run. Everyone wants to run fast. Everyone wants to be the fastest kid, okay? And then what happens is some kids are faster than others, so the ones that aren't fast end up going longer distances and slower, and they end up running marathons, or they end up playing other things, okay? Some people like team sports more than whatever, but everyone wants to be the fastest runner in school, in whatever. Greatest athlete ever. Watch this video. greatest athlete in my mind, in Olympic Games, takes the time to make someone else feel special when he's about to run the race of his life. And I, at times, will be too busy to give someone that sort of attention. Yeah? Anyone else do that? Probably, maybe. You don't have to say so. I'll say I did. And I look at that and I love that video. Like, how did it make you feel good? It made me feel good. It's like you said, to me, the greatest athlete, the race of his life, I'll take the time to make this person's day. Fuck me, that's powerful. So, in your little groups, in 2s or 3s or 4s, talk about what can you take from those to make your environment better? The environment that you're in every day. What can you take from that? Or how can you implement something to make your environment better? You've got 2 minutes because Belinda's got me on the time. So you've got to talk. Rightio. We'll only get two people to share from their group, and hopefully it's someone that hasn't. Unless you're burning to share something, then go ahead. 2 people who would like to share something for the group. Ooh, bit harder when it's emotional, eh? Yes.
I think recognition.
Yep.
No matter how small or big it is, and I think at the time, don't wait for.
Yep. Really good point. Really good point. Too often we leave it because I'll talk to them later, or they know I value them, but they don't. Okay, really good point. Thank you. Anyone else? One other person, one other group, sorry. No, it's not a person yet.
Do the huddle better. I'd have to actually catch up with everyone
Yep.
outside of not talk tennis.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Show you care about them as a people rather than just about as a tennis player. Absolutely. You know, really good points. Moving on. Okay, so we covered a heap of different things within the hulls. We spoke about, we spoke about learnings. Show a video of a skateboarder failing all the time. It's okay to fail. About Alex Honnold, the guy who climbed El Capitan in Yosemite National Park without a harness. About how he used reflection to become better. About Steph Curry in practice when he's mic'd up, about how he encourages and talks to teammates, directs, pulls them up if they do things wrong, but how you do it, how you give and take feedback. We had this guy, Ben Askren, a UFC fighter, and he spoke about grabbing the positive things that happen in life and creating positive spirals in your life, because we always want to go to the negative. Okay, and that's us as coaches, and that's us as people, is we always want to go to the negative. So how do we create positive spirals? We had Dean come in, he spoke about, are we all chasing the same dream? And the players got together and ran their own huddles, which was where I wanted to get to in the first place, is that they could create their own space to talk openly and honestly. And they spoke about developing, this was our theme for the year, chase the feeling. Chase the feeling. And it wasn't just about winning, it was about sharing moments with each other and connecting and bonding and having this tight, really close group that they could share moments with, chasing the feeling. That's what they were after. We had one of our Fijian guys spoke about Fijian culture, and there's this term, soli solivaki, collectively doing things together for the benefits of the village, subjugating yourself for the village. How do we create those environments? 5 minutes, I've got you. There was all these different things that we spoke about. We spoke about how do we create an environment of joy? How do we create an environment of joy? Joy is not being happy, okay? Joy is, and there's a video, and again, I don't have time, but it's about ultimate happiness. It's about losing yourself in the game and having a purpose. It's how much you love and embrace the day. It's about taking pride in others' success, not just your own. Really hard in individual sport, right? How you take pride in someone else if they're beating you, maybe. I don't know. We spoke about this. I mentioned love is a force that ignites spirit and binds teams together. When I came down to it, what I believe, my opinion, is great teams have love. Great teams have love. That went down really well with our head coach as a hard ass, right? Don't give me this connection shit. Great teams have love. Okay? I believe that. We spoke about gratitude being the change that you want to see in the world. Mark Matthews spoke about a wave of gratitude text. Ryan Pappenhausen said, hey, this weekend when we go away for 3 days, text someone about how much you appreciate them. Every day we tried to end the huddle with gratitude, and we're going to finish with that. So that will take 2 minutes, Belinda. Then the players started doing things outside of that. They spoke about family moments. So every week, twice a week, people would get up and share their family. Because Harry Grant, our captain, spoke about Jerome Hughes, who he'd played with for 6 years, and I didn't even know what his mum and dad did. So then everyone got up and shared what their family did and what the values that they got from their family. Okay, and you started to learn a little bit deeper about the person. And what we came to was, we started with this performance mindset of live better, train better, play better, and we ended up becoming a better me, a better we, a better us, because we created an environment for it. Did it work? There's all these quotes from players talking about how, I feel like this group is the tightest we've been in a long time. Our connection as a whole squad, the culture here is so welcoming. There's no hierarchy. One or two of you might know Veronique Richard from the Uni of Queensland. She came down, she did a connection camp with us. In the middle of the year, we took 2 days off, and instead of training them really hard, we went down, we did a great race, we did dancing, we did body beats, we did all this stuff around connection and having fun together instead of training. Head coach loved it. And she came away and she said, this is unbelievable. And we did this study and we looked at and we asked the players to fill out this survey, anonymous, notice changes in the team environment. 93% said yes. Was it positive? 100% said yes. Did it positively impact your team's performance? And then how did it impact? What's that? Extremely impactful. 66% said it was extremely impactful. And it had nothing to do with training. It had to do with connection. How do you want to be remembered? What legacy do you want to leave? I'll leave you with this quote, and then I'm going to do my gratitude thing, okay? What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, it's what's woven into the lives of others. So, for the last 1 minute, get in your groups, someone that you're grateful for, or that you've seen someone do something good for someone else, and 3 people are going to share. 1 minute, let's go. Thank you.
Recently on a trip away, my wife was having a bit of a meltdown, juggling the kids, and our colleague of mine went and did the grocery shopping for her to lighten the load, just to take one job off her hands whilst she was...
How fantastic.
So very grateful.
How fantastic. How did that make you feel?
Very happy to have him as a mate.
Cool. How did that make you feel? How did that make you feel?
Great.
Because here's the other thing is, when you do something good for people, it actually gives you positive endorphins too. That's a fantastic story. Thank you for that. Who else? 2 more.
I thought it was Ben Robertson when we were talking about positive affirmations and fist pumps and the work he's been doing with pricing myself in the ACT. He just came right into my head.
Okay.
Just grateful for what he does for us and the whole team.
Okay, that's fantastic. Have you told him that before?
Probably not enough.
Okay, there you go. Great. See, we don't share enough, and we don't thank enough, and we're not grateful enough. Last one, I saw a hand over here somewhere. Yes, please.
There's to my left.
Yep.
It doesn't matter the level of the player, male, female, age. He's always got the same level of care, passion, commitment to his job, and I just told him that then.
Okay, that's fantastic. How does that make you feel, knowing that he feels like that?
Yeah, feel a little humbling.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Because the other hard thing is, when someone says, I really appreciate you doing this, and you go, it's nothing. Be proud of it. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you telling me this. That's a really powerful message for me to take. Be proud of the fact that someone is appreciative of what you do, and accept it, and don't brush it off. Okay? And make sure that you give back to others as well. So I'm done. Thank you.